Greetings, everyone. Glad to see you here on day 4 of the International Week of Vidzeme University of Applied Sciences. My name is Egija, and I will be moderating the panel discussion on the topic Digitalization, the right way. Digitization, digitalization, and digital transformation. We do have a lot of terms. However, in this discussion, we use only one. Do we really understand the meaning of each? Do all of these mean the same, or do they differ in the small details? Let's try to get some clarity on the topic. And I am very curious to understand the current situation, as well as future risks, and most importantly, opportunities. To find answers to these questions, I have been accompanied by very amazing guests, starting with Vija Niedre from Vidzeme Tech Girls, who is also a founder of HR Wellbe and HR manager at Trolls Miltene Ltd. We also have here Pēteris Daliņš from KPMG Lighthouse, Center for Excellence for Data, AI, and Emerging Technologies. Also, we have here Edmunds Jansons, who is the director of Master Study Program, Virtual Reality and Smart Technologies. And as the last, but not the least guest, we have Alvis Sokolos, who is Dean of the Faculty of Engineering and also a board member at Baltma Ltd. The problem that has always been quite pressing is the knowledge transfer regarding any field between different entities. It sometimes seems like people are scared to share their knowledge because someone might steal their ideas and make a better product or something like that. But they don't think that it could make the whole industry situation better. It feels like an unnecessary barrier that keeps us from actually amazing solutions. Maybe something that we should think about is how to share these experiences on digitalization so that the businesses at all levels could make it happen without prejudices and inspiring confidence in others. So as a first step in this conversation, please shortly describe your experience in digitalization and what level of involvement you've had in a process like this.
Newcomer in IT and digitalization, as I'm trying to build a product to make better HR work, to get data out of employees and give this data to employers and make employee well-being database as employers can make database decisions and not based on emotions or louder voice. That's what I'm doing right now. And I'm working in HR manager in production, and there are some projects where we try to digitalize the projects too.
Hi, I'm Pēteris. When it comes to digitalization, I'd say I've probably had quite a bit of experience because I've worked both as a CIO in transforming our internal systems and the organisational structures around it, and that was in kind of production manufacturing systems, finance systems, and implementing new technology and ways of working to do that. But at my recent clients and my recent work here in Latvia, again, implementing solutions to suit clients and taking manual processes and taking out conflicting processes, making sure that we can optimise those. So I'd say fairly broad and different experience when it comes to digitalisation, and I guess where I'm looking at the future is, and we won't talk about it today, but how digitalisation will change, the actual process will change, and what part does generative AI have. That's something very important. We started talking about it in the previous session, but the generative AI aspect and how that plays a role in digitalisation is something that I'm starting to work with my team, and it's going to be very interesting. So that's sort of like the next wave, and we need to understand how we're going to use that for good in digitalisation would be a question that might be interesting today as well. Paul, yes?
Hello everyone, my name is Edmunds. I'm excited that I will try to describe my experience briefly. I have had experience in public sector audits of information systems in public sector. That has given me some insights also how things are going on in the public sector. And for the case of digital transformation of higher education, for the last 4 years I've been also part of the virtual reality and augmented reality team, which has also given a broader experience and perspective on the ways how we can help industry partners and what kind of questions they are willing to ask and how can we provide the best approach towards digitalization of their current day approach. And also, I've been part of the group of experts who had done research on the digital transformation of higher education in Latvia. So that was a very interesting research done back from 40 years ago. And I would say that currently we can see some of the things that we described then fulfilling and taking place now. So it's very interesting to see things growing from ideas to actual implementation phase. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm electrical engineer. Actually, that's my background. That's what I studied. But more specifically, I was dealing with industrial automation and digitizing industrial processes. Did some digitalization projects in SMEs, and also as a dean I've digitalized some of the study processes, so we're getting into more faster decision making and yeah, processes, optimization of processes probably I would say. So yeah, thank you.
I am usually at the end of using the solutions that somebody has already digitized. It was awesome to hear the level of expertise each of you have regarding this topic. I just want to mention, please remember that this is a conversation. Feel free to ask questions to each other so we don't do the boring side of school practice where I, as a teacher, ask a question to each of you and then we go home. I do have a question that I would like to continue with, but after that the ground is yours. What are some of the factors, in your opinion, that are delaying rapid digitalization?
I think one of the main factors is, and I talked about it in my previous conversation, organisational and people change to accept digitalisation. Systems can be built. We're smart people. We can build systems. But one of the most important things is adapting people's thinking, people's mindsets, people feeling secure and comfortable that their jobs are changing, that it's good that they can do higher value things and not do boring repetitive tasks, for example in automation, making people feel comfortable and engaging them on the journey. So that's one of the main things. Secondly, again, trying to use one technology to fix everything. It doesn't fix anything. You've got to use the right technology for the right purposes, for the right size of problem, and in combination they would be probably my top two. I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah, totally agree. But also I would stress the knowledge gap you've mentioned already. I think it's one of the issues that we have to deal. And you say, yeah, the culture, the inner culture, but also the understanding, the level of understanding. We might think okay, that will go away in maybe 5 to 10 years, but I'm not so sure about that, because talking with pupils, school students, I see that it's not going to be solved in the next 5 to 10 years, because those kids have a huge knowledge gap. They don't really know, they've never heard some of the terms, they don't really know what is AI. They have heard now about ChatGPT, but the problem is that they know how to use particular tools for communication, particular tools for something else, but they don't have the idea what it really means and where it can lead. So I think that the more we educate people, the faster the process can be, and faster and more quality process can be.
Yeah, if I may add, so the one thing is actually, yes, as Alves mentioned, that the gap of skills, but how we could describe the gap of skills. So you would have on one hand the fundamental skills, which are somewhat driven from the early childhood, early teaching, as well as the basics of mathematics and so on. And the other is the lifelong acquired skills. And if we are talking about the second one, about lifelong skilling up, it's more of a question of being in comfort zone. So many people do make their choice to be in the comfort zone and not to try new things, not to have something to strive for. And I think that for digitalization these days, when systems are becoming more user-friendly, more human-centered, it's only about being able to try new things and not to stay in the comfort zone. So I think that for that reason we have to focus more on keeping people striving for more, keeping them in the loop of education and lifelong learning. So, well, that's my personal view on that.
I totally agree. I would say I am addicted from this keeping me out of comfort zone. I'll always find a way how to learn something new. I don't know much of artificial intelligence, but I have heard what can come out of this, and I'm trying to get it in a real life. I'm not an academic. I don't know all the theoretical things about this, but I know that we as like average people can get much thing out of this, and we as professionals like HRs totally can use this technology in our way in real life situation, and let things happen. And it's totally going out of comfort zone, because not all of us know artificial intelligence, machine learning, models, all the things around this. But if we are ready to learn, it can happen. Things can happen.
Just to build on that, and maybe I get to ask a question as well. But I'm hearing a theme of skills, and it's not about the technology, which I think we're all saying. And I'll say I've been actually very impressed coming from Australia and running a business that's international, both my previous one and my current one. I've been very impressed about how actually some of the students that I'm seeing coming out of Latvia and some of the higher, the institutions in, well, particularly in Latvia in my current job, that they actually have that skill set of blend of technology, but also that inquisitive learning mind and understanding that, because the days of a person being a programmer, and we were talking about it, a person being in a room, in a dark room programming, have probably gone, because you can probably outsource that to a cheaper country, and it's about the blend of business and inquisitive learning. So I guess my question is, you guys that are closer to the students, do you see that that's something that Latvia is developing? And I know I don't want to turn into a Latvia conversation, but generally, what we see would be really interesting, because I actually don't see it in Sweden. I see Swedish being very, they've gone to a university, they've done a course, and now they expect a job, but their soft skills are not there. So what's your commentary and your thoughts on the ability for our students to learn, and if not, then what do they need to do?
That's one of the things that we are introducing with our European University Initiative, and we do also moving away from sort of lecture as as was said, from just pure lecturing to more interactive ways, like putting people in the groups, in mixed groups, not only IT with IT, but we work with students from different backgrounds, from different cultures, and that's really opens some students up. And well, we can't do this to everyone. This is really difficult to take a few thousand students and divide them into 100 groups. But we can take our best students, put with best other students from Europe, and then we can do fantastic results.
What I've seen from my peers of student years is that currently we can see that after the first 1 decade in the job market, many people from social and humanitarian sciences are now teaching themselves how to get into the STEM fields, mostly for coding or data science. And this is a trend that's quite large and strong here. And I think that in terms of the higher educated graduates, this is becoming more and more popular, that the ones who already had a degree in other things than STEM, they are now striving to get there. As for those who are professional educated, I think that they are getting more acquainted with new technologies and practical means, and how to use CNC machines, how to do some more demanding jobs that require technology. Whilst there's a big question what we can do with the people who are mid-age and near to their senior years. I think that's a perspective that hasn't been looked upon, and there's quite a chance that we could find some more people who could find their job in the IT sector as well.
Yes, about this topic I can say again. In my free time, I'm involved in organization. Probably some of you have heard Riga Tech Girls, and we have like a region, Vidzeme Tech Girls. This is this region where Valmiera comes in, and we have this practical information to those who want to know more. We have different learnings, different things, but mostly you need to again go out of your comfort zone to go to learn new things. And what in my experience I have seen that and especially in regions, I would say, there is barrier between these things, IT, and you must admit that English is a must-have if you want to be in this all is in IT. And there we see this gap, English knowledge, that not all understand this knowledge, and that is what we are trying to do. We organize some courses everyone can get in and try to understand. As you probably hear, my English not so good too, but I'm like going out and trying and doing, and in a way just doing this you can like make things to happen. And English is if we speak this middle age, English is what must be first, I think.
Yes, I think what you say is absolutely. You've mentioned several times about learning, self-learning, and I think this is a great time of opportunities to learn, because you have YouTube, you have Udemy, you have whatever courses you want, Coursera, and I sometimes even wonder why people go to universities, but in reality, I know, because it's a hub where students can meet, and they can work together, they buzz and do things and come up with some creative ideas. But what I wanted to say is the huge gap between students, and I would say students with a lower knowledge and lower motivation. There's a huge gap to the average, and then there is again a tremendous gap with very motivated students who do learn outside the university walls. They do their self-education. They learn new things constantly, and they develop themselves constantly. So I think that's really something we have to keep in mind. How do we work with ultra-motivated students so that they don't lose motivation to be in the university? How do we work with the average person in Latvia or whatever? And how do we get, honestly, how do we get around with students who are less motivated, but still they are demanded on the market? So I think one of the things also industry has to think about is how do they, what is their vision and how do they communicate this vision to us, to universities and to the kids in future so that they understand, okay, yes, everyone wants to study IT, it's huge now, but what we are asked to teach is basically programming. You have to learn, some languages, you have to learn programming skills, and yeah, nobody talks about data analysis, data mining. Yeah, we do some things, but it's not like we have a totally dedicated program to that, because nobody wants us to do a separate program, and we can't sell it. So I think we should also think about selling things together to next generations, because it's us cooperating together. Yeah.
And look, that's a really good point, because there is a skills shortage. So we're talking about what are the impediments or the barriers to digitalisation. Yeah, there is a shortage of skills with the blend of technologies and also soft skills. There are companies importing people from other parts of the world because they can't find them locally. And there's a retraining of mature age, which is important. And I guess that then leads to maybe another barrier of digitalisation, is that the diversity that is required to get thinking. So you have a student coming out with a fresh set of technologies, ideas and thinking. How does a person like that actually get to have a voice in an organisation where there's probably somebody running the IT department or the business at my age and maybe is not open to thinking that way? How does that become, how do they get a voice? And I think, to answer my own question, but I'd be interested in the panel's thoughts about how do we have, or where do you see diversity? Because I look around and I was pleasantly surprised about the gender sort of equality that, we've got a mix in this room, we've got a mix by the looks of students. You need that for starters, but then you think about backgrounds, age, everything else, because diversity of thinking then generates innovation and generates digitalisation in some ways. If you've got everybody sitting around the room, I mean, my principle is in my leadership group, if you have everybody sitting around that looks and is my age and is my background, well then I'm not getting any diversity of thinking, and everybody's saying, yeah, that's a good idea, Peter. That's not going to lead to any innovation or digitalisation and challenging. So yeah, I'd be interested in our thoughts on how do we build that diversity, as you said, both in your teams, and do you agree with me that it is something that's holding up digitalisation?
I could add on top of what both gentlemen just said. The need for soft-skilled people is quite high, and why wouldn't we take them by hand and help these students who are already part of social and humanitarian part of education to become more digitally savvy? And actually, for that reason, as we can see behind my colleague's Egija's back, there's a poster of one of the projects that we are actually being part of, called Egija. So the basic principle of how these new kind of projects of digitalization are working is that their aim is to take the student of humanitarian or social sciences by hand and show them with a mentorship where he can or she can find the best sources of materials that are available publicly through the MOOCs. So whether it's edX, whether it's Coursera, or it's something that is really tailored for the specific needs of our universities. And this is something that can help guide the person to where he or she wants to actually finalize the education to. I might say that these kind of massive online courses have been here for something like 15 years or already maybe 20 years. We have seen that during the time as when we were students, we knew about it, but it was always that we didn't have enough time to check out the materials that are there. So the approach of taking someone and mentoring him through this new field of digital perspectives is something that gives more opportunity. Well, and hopefully we can see the outcome results over the next couple of years that students not from STEM fields could become more digitally savvy. So we'll see how it turns out.
So I saw that you didn't really answer Peter's question. He was asking about what would be your ideas to improve this diversity in the rooms. Do you have any ideas now?
Maybe the first to answer this. So if we're talking about diversity, it's also a question of what drives the difference in between the balance, say for example gender diversity as we see it. And I profoundly believe that the fact and the matter source of the problem is somewhere lying in the primary schools already, where you have different approach to how you should have different approach to how you teach math, how you teach other STEM fields subjects, and there, because of the quality or less of quality or missed quality of the teachers, you might lose some good pupils that could become better students in 12 years. So if you would try to tackle this problem that starts already there, and sometimes even in kindergartens, which are overcrowded in Latvia, for example, then there would be higher probability that we could have more people finding their higher skill sets.
I can only agree with the statement that we have to work very early in the educational stage. And the culture, I don't know how to change that culture. It's a long history of this gender imbalance in technologies. So really, but on the other hand, again, I watched movie which I don't remember unfortunately how the title of the movie, but it was about women in NASA doing the calculations for moon landings. And they were the job position was called calculator, and it was about that, and they were just women. So I don't know what's the problem now. I think it's about communicating that this is for everyone. This is for even if you have different interests. Like day before, we had discussion with students from school, from vocational schools, and we asked them, hey, what do you know about digital stuff? They said, oh, well, not much. So how are you interested? Not really. So what are your interests? Sports, I don't know, defense, arts, philosophy. And then we put those names on the table. And we said, okay, what do you think philosophy has to do with digitalization, digital transformation? And then we moved to AI. What do you think a law has to do with digital? And we find everywhere that there are possibilities for digital education. So I encourage the students actually to come to study also a little bit of IT, so they can perform better at their fields of interest.
I want to add in this, maybe some of you even don't know what you want to learn, go to university, then I can suggest like again program from Riga Tečgals Iepazīsti tehnoloģijas. It's our main goal is diversity, inclusion, and there you can just see the top of all and understand in which field you are interested. And we have like programs, educational programs. If you don't like know where digitalization comes in your world, like healthcare, we have this program, healthcare, where you can learn and understand where is this parallels, where you can use this digitalization in your profession. So just need to understand the best way, and after you understand, like this was in my case, I understand that I like data, and from this program I understand data visualization, data, all about data is thing that I like. And after I can choose university with whatever and learn more or use Coursera or even that's much of a possibility what to learn. You just need to understand what is the thing, what you need, what you are interested in.
If I can add to that, yeah, it's a very good point to say, we're talking about how do we change skill sets or people studying or people in the industry. There is an absolute responsibility on the individual to realise they need to improve and to continue to not just go to university from 9 until 5 and say, right, I'm going to be ready. It's about thinking what else is happening out there, because courses can never be telling you what's happening right now. Right? Generative AI, it changed last month, it's going to change next month. So a university course cannot catch up, just as one example, right? So that's one thing. But I think, just to give Tech Girls a plug again, or, to say how good it is, I've got the, I guess, the honour and pleasure to mentor a young lady in Riga. And the reason I raise it, because she has taken the initiative. She came from an industry of nothing to do with IT. She wanted to change the way that she's thinking and learning. She's ready to hear about feedback, and she's going through success of her career, and I'm a part of that. But unfortunately, part of what I also have to say is that the systemic bureaucracy that she is working in, with leaders, let's stereotype them as middle-aged males that will not perhaps see the future or accept a different opinion because of the age. There is, people think just because a person's younger doesn't mean it means that their idea will not be as good as theirs, and that's the failing of leaders and leadership knowledge. People have to understand that as a leader you need to listen, and often people don't do that, and I can see it in her business, and that is that. And that takes time, because eventually those people will retire, and I think that's almost upon us. That they are getting forced out, and those startup, and there are industries as well. This is industry specific, and so as people starting out on their careers, you've got to choose your industry as well, because an industry where you're working in international, or there is, let's say, a bank. Banks are quite advanced when it comes to digitalisation and so forth. Might be other small industries that they don't need to, or there's no competitive pressure to digitalise just yet. Why would you go waste your time there as a new student if you want to be part of that digitalisation journey and keep your skills current? You've also got to be careful about that. So that's just some further thoughts. But anybody that wants to join Vidzemes Tech Girls or Riga Tech Girls, I think it's an awesome program. It's really good. Yeah, that was an ad. You can pay me later.
Well, I found that Peter pointed to a very bold fact, that there are these also the senior managers who are just to retire, or we still need to find a way to wait until they will retire. But the problem is that currently we have no time to wait for them to retire. So it means that the only option for us is to actually go to them and try to address those groups who are in these lead positions that are currently not that sophisticated in digital, but who might, if they would be given the cost-benefit analysis on what they are doing at some point of their career and in their business. So I think that this is something that your companies and also Vidzeme Tech Girls are doing, trying to reach out to people and to change their minds. But possibly there's a need for some more centralized approach to digitalization in this regard, as currently we are somewhat 5 to 10 years to more before we get more synthetic virtual environments. And it means that once we land in a situation where you have hybrid forms of working, both in real time, in a casual way, and working in virtual realities, then we might have been in a moment when we are just too late, that we can't catch up with the industries, and that we are not the creators of these environments, but we are just the end users who are paying for that. And this is a situation in which our economy would be left out. So, well, I truly believe that we should act faster to overcome this kind of possible challenge of the future.
We've talked a lot about what are the good and bad factors, what is the success, what would make it successful. And it's interesting how every IT conversation circles back to human. That we need humans to get this going, and we need humans for innovation, and the people that have to use it are like in the front of everything. So we talked about both sides of the digitalization. Maybe you can name the first step that you would individually take to solve this latency that we talked about, that it's not happening rapidly.
It's not that easy to answer yet for us as an institution of education, and more particularly in our field, personal field of VR AR, it's a bit of an easier task, since we have things to show that are interesting for the people. They like to have an excursion in the ways how technology can be used, and this is something that we do. People do come also for visiting us to see how things can be looking in the virtual environments. Whilst it's also the good way is that we can address the new students who are currently just enrolled in our university, and by doing so we can already seed the idea that they have to change in terms of the skill set, that they have to look for something more, that they should never stop learning new things. And I think this is the best perspective that we can give to these people that are starting their studies here. Maybe Aldis can add to that.
Thank you. Yeah, sure. We actually did our first steps. We are part of European Digital Hubs initiatives, and we are in several projects actually, working with digitalization, and digital transformation, and helping. The idea is to help SMEs to get somewhere, to also develop new products, new businesses. So this is something we've started, and what I think what we would require a bit more help working with SMEs is a mentoring program that connects academia to business, because sometimes we speak different languages sometimes, and that sometimes is a problem, because companies not always understand what they want, or they might even not know what they need, and so that it really takes time to get into their problems, into their issues, defining what they really want. But I think the first steps have already been done, and we're on the right way. And if we are talking about the new generation of students, then it's also, of course, a constant adaptation to the situation. As Petris also mentioned, we can't give you yesterday news. We have to teach you from the ground. So because sometimes people expect universities to give the hottest, the newest stuff, but then while you don't have this basic skills, it's really useless to give the very cream of the technology. So and on the other hand, again, we have to balance it with the requirements of the company. So, but yeah, answering your question, I think we're on the way. It is bureaucratic a bit, but I think it will be okay in next years.
Coming back to creating, I mean, if one of the main impediments is cultural change, when we talk to clients or potential clients, it's first thing is about building awareness or creating the reason for change, and why do they need to digitalise? And I think you mentioned it. It's about, well, what's the business case? Why would I do it? and understand who you're talking to. If you're going to talk to a person that doesn't understand what AI is or machine learning is, don't talk to them about the technology. Talk to them about why they should change and that. So it's about creating awareness, creating communication, being able to communicate effectively about, and understanding that sometimes people just aren't ready for that as well. I mean, everybody's got a, you know, if they're an innovator or all the way through to the laggard kind of, you know, bell curve of who you're talking to, and don't expect that everybody's ready for digitalisation, and choose the people and the key stakeholders in any organisation or where you're doing that. Choose it effectively and talk to the right people as well, because not everybody's ready for that conversation.
Again, I could say going out of comfort zone, must have. Again, learn new things. Again, I would say design thinking is good option how to get out and do things. I would say that must know all persons who want to make things happen in digitalization. I would suggest this like must have.
Okay, let's think about another positive thing. What would be the main benefits if we got through with digitalization on the desired level? And what do you think in your own institutions, what is the desired level? Like, I want to see, for example, in university, I know we can't go all the way. But there are some companies that can do everything digitized. So from your own perspective, what would be the desired level, and what would be the main benefit for you if in your company you would do this process?
I will speak in my experience. What I'm doing, I'm trying to use digitalization to make easier life for HRs. So I know they have much of work every day, and there are some topics they want to solve, but they can't because time is limited. So in my ideal life, I will build product what is easy to use, and benefit from this would be for all, not only for these HRs, for employees, for all the around organization, all country, everything global, go global. I would say if an employee is happy, he is more productive, then employer are happy, employer pay like everything to government, government is happy, and so the circle goes bigger and bigger. I would say with my product, a happy, healthy employee would be the main goal.
Then you should be chief happiness officer somewhere at some municipality, or maybe here at the university. What I would like to see is probably I would generalize a bit. Let's start with the basic requirements on the processes. If we talk about any organization, I think first of all, where I would love to be is absolutely clear processes, well structured, organized, so everything works perfectly on paper. I mean, in real life, with the paper moving around, and then we can talk about digitization of that paper and move somewhere further, and then we can go up the stairs. And of course, I would love to see the top of the triangle where we're speaking about the digital transformation of the company, where we can feel the processes, not only processes but also personalities being involved in day-to-day activities through digital media. And this is something I really probably difficult for me to formulate, but I feel, yeah, that's where we should go. That's what our goal should be, is having the students' enrollment, all the gradings, all the external communications with our involved institutions and partners and municipalities. And what I would see is also a digital town, digital city, where you have data coming in constantly, and we can start from first day of enrollment till alumni processes. We see that let's say from left to right and from bottom to up and so on. Yeah.
I'd say from my perspective, and there's an old saying about, what is it, if, you know, the shoemaker's always got the worst shoes. It's like, and sometimes some of the companies I've worked in is we're telling everybody else how to do it, and sometimes we don't have things sorted out. But one example is that if you think about consulting, ChatGPT or those tools out there, they start to develop content. So the conversation we're having internally is, we need to be ready for that. And so the first thing I'm trying to say, forget about KPMG, but every organisation needs to accept that AI is here, that ChatGPT is here, that generative AI is here, and being very quick and not being an ostrich and putting your head in the sand. It's about figuring out how you're going to use it and change your workforce to embark on that. And that's when digitalisation will start, because you're able to do it very quickly because you're able to harness those tools. I mean, an example is Microsoft now has a thing called Copilot. Copilot basically allows you to say, hey, can you please take this file and create a presentation out of it? So as a consultant that gets paid by the hour, you're like, well, what value am I adding? Well, the value you're adding is because the content is only generated by a generative AI system. So everybody needs to start thinking about how that journey is going to come, and I think overlay that with how do we manage innovation in our organisations, because digitalisation will come through fast innovation and comes in any organisation through a different way of thinking and not old ways of thinking, and therefore having that innovation process in place that allows people to make mistakes, allows people to try things, and I'm coupling that with generative AI, use that to create content and try things and so forth. Those two things seem to be a very powerful way looking forward of what digitalisation could look like.
The specific case of higher education is that almost all of the people employed in universities do have a higher education degree, which is in most cases the fact. But here we come to the question of what is important for an employee to feel that he is honored to what he is doing, and in a way that he would enjoy and have fulfillment of the work that the person does. And this comes to the self-actualization. So doing something extra that gives you added value and is possibly also creative. And currently, if we have plenty of paperwork, which is in many industries, paperwork which basically is something repetitive in such a way that doesn't bring any extra value or feeling for the person that he has done something unusual or something creative. By the dawn of the new technologies of automation, I would say that we'll see that more and more these kind of repetitive tasks will be unnecessary, and in that way we can have more hours for the people to do creative things. But then we have the question of whether everyone is creative enough. So for that reason, also people who are less in the humanities and social sciences, they also will have to have soft skills so that they wouldn't become useless in terms of the industries. So we have to find the golden middle point of the sectors so that there will be both good STEM background and also soft skill opportunities there.
I actually raised the question, how do you do that? Because what I've came across is people who get bored by these repetitive tasks, and then there are people who say, no, I don't, please put me in a box, please give me instructions, and let me do those things on instructions, which we know can be absolutely automated or robotized. And how do you can't say just, oh, that's your responsibility. So I mean, we can, if we work in a private company, I'll just sack you and say goodbye. But on a broader scale, I think we should also think how to deal with these personalities that are not ready to be creative. So how could we raise that awareness and probably motivate towards taking more responsibility, and yeah, how?
I probably will say that you must find the thing where every person is interested, because when you find the thing, just the person can be other way. Passion is what we must find, because in every person is something that he is like, wow, this is mine, I like this, I can go around world to say this. And I think that must can be all like box thinking. It's human centric, I would say.
I think talking about that process automation question, in a particular project, when we were putting in RPA, robotic process automation, which was simplifying automated processes and potentially people losing their jobs. One of the things that you go through is you obviously educate people that this change is coming, and you do it slowly, and you turn on 1 robot, 2 robots, 3 robots, you do it slowly, and people start to learn that actually they've got a role to play in that RPA new ecosystem, and some of the people became the owners of the robots or the teachers of the robots, and so they use the robots for that process optimization, and they realized that they're actually not getting paid based on time, they're getting paid on quality, and therefore there was a change in KPIs that said this person, you're no longer getting assessed on whether you're here from 9 till 5, you're actually getting assessed on quality, and that changed the person's mindset to say, actually these robots are good because they're helping me do my job, and you raise the job up, and so that's that incremental change of the person that wasn't quite ready to change. Another example I might provide is that Toyota in Australia is a famous case in Australia in Toyota, that they basically were robotising and optimising and downsizing their operations, and a huge amount of the workforce was going to go, and there was no situation that there were going to be lots and lots, and I'm talking thousands of people looking for new jobs because there was no jobs for them. Some of them were able to find these sort of next step up of controlling the automation or being that kind of thing because they know the process and therefore they're the best people to control those processes. But a lot of people left, and Toyota actually used it as a branding exercise that was well known in the market, that they educated, they let anybody go do a course and anything they wanted to re-educate them, and so they paid for it. So Toyota was like the best brand in Australia because they knew that these thousands of people were going to be on the street, but they turned it around from a brand image perspective. And you know, there's stories of a person becoming a pilot and they went and paid a pilot's course, and that's what Toyota did, and that's what they chose. Now that's a Japanese company where you work for life, but it's just one example on the other scale of how, you know, sometimes it's inevitable. If they're not ready to change, they are going to be impacted, because it is ultimately, you know, in business, you're there to make money, and some people can't be that, and that's the unfortunate, uncomfortable truth.
I also believe that mentoring and working with humans, learning psychology and understanding how the mind works is something that might help a lot in this process. But now we have some time left for questions from the auditorium. Do we have any?
Hello, thank you for the discussion. I have a very specific question that goes back to the first point that you discussed, how to help people who are, for example, middle age or old, and yeah, they don't know English, like they don't speak English, and I can give you an example. For example, my mom, she does not speak any English, and she does not know anything about IT. She works in a completely separate field. And I can't even explain her what I am doing in my job. So the question is, do you have actually some advice to me what I should tell her and what she should do to at least understand like what is data analytics, what is IT, what does it mean? So that's my question.
Been there, done that. I have in my network persons, as you told, the same situation, and then again from practical life, met person, middle age, don't know anything about technologies, don't like technologies, just don't tell me this, I don't need this. But in some way you find some point where they are interested. Like I would say in this case, person don't want anything about technologies, but in a point where she in her mobile phone can read news about all the world, there, yes, just open me this and I will read anything. And from this, it's from like interest. If you are interested in something, you find a way. And she like learned technology just by this goal to see news in a phone, to follow the world, to see all around. So yes, there are again this interest.
Yeah, I agree. Finding the points of interest is really important. But where I would start, and I see that it works in many cases. You start with explaining things really simple, like you would explain it to I don't know, 5-year-old kid. So you start imagine with this, try to make a story which she can relate to, because people who are not in who don't know anything about digital virtual world we live in now today, actually we live it. It's really hard for them to imagine, and then when you start doing something when they can relate, and as for example the reading news online or something like that, it's really, they can start understanding it slowly. And my mother, who's 72, she reads news, she watches some YouTube channels, she's doing many things on the computer, and before that she said, well, that's not for me, I can't use computers. But in the end, she does it with her mouse, and she types in letters, and there's no problem. And maybe she doesn't need any more skills. She really can use for her own purpose. About your profession, yeah, I would start really simple, really basic.
Another idea, you can ask ChatGPT to generate it. To explain it to like a 5-year-old, and then translate it in Latvian, and then add your point of interest that you know your mom's interested in. That's what I would do as a student. Do we have any other auditorium questions? I see that everyone understood everything perfectly or didn't understand anything at all. It always goes both ways. So it was very fun to talk with you, to understand and remind ourselves that in the point of digitalization era, we still need humans, and the best digitalization will happen if we make it human-centric, so that we don't lose our focus in there. So would you agree that there is no right way to do digitalization? So as we answered the question that there's no really one certain way or the right way to do it, as we understood, there's so many different areas that we need to cover, and each institution or company will have a totally different perspective on this. All we need is to find motivation and figure out whether we actually need it and on what level do we do it. So thank you very much for answering my questions again. It has been amazing to get to know your thoughts and ideas. And I wish you a lovely stay here. And if you have something to say, you can say it now.
Yeah, I want to add. P.S. That I'm sitting there, it's thanks to my robot who is cleaning the floors in my home. He is sending message he have done. Okay, I'm too. Let's go home. And as I'm a data person, I check it in my app. I have saved in 2 years 400 hours in just cleaning the floor. You imagine this, that it is in 1 year, 200 hours, it is, imagine 1 month. I have lost 1 month just cleaning the floor. So for me, it is like option where to spend time better.
Okay, thank you. See you later.
Thank you.